Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Piglet here once again, and I'm back for some more yet again for more of the Maxi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to more Let's Play of Kirby's Epic Yarn / Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn for the Nintendo Wii / Nintendo 3DS. So, last time we actually did manage to defeat Yin Yarn once and for all, and also we managed to able to actually just about to be restored every single portions of the forms of Dreamland, and also we did manage to tackle through the final two levels of the game, which are, you know, Meta Melon Isle, and especially noticeable with Battleship Halberd. And, yeah, as far as I can say about this. So, today for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, especially for the next couple of videos ahead, the final thing we need to do for this point of the game, well, before we get into the forms of 100% completion, is the fact that now we can able to actually do the rest of the remaining challenges as far as this game offers. Like, I'm pretty sure we've still got quite a few challenges left, but in forms of Zeke's hide and seek challenges, and especially noticeable with Beadrix run missions, and even especially noticeable, I think we've only got one more challenge left in the forms of Carrie's transport, and there's still going to be a whole abundance of missions to go through from Buster's training, and eventually for the second and the final half of the forms of Mario's race. So even then, let's get the story right there, but in forms of Zeke's hide and seek challenges, and even then though, we'll get this thing started with Tempest Towers. So, if those of you do not know already, this is actually my post-commentary for this particular point, because obviously there's not much else I can really think about this other than I can able to discuss about you guys, about the forms of how the fact that I seem to able to actually decide to able to actually go for the final set of amount of challenges, but in a way, especially in the forms of the very end of every single challenges is how this game offers, mainly by the forms of Dreamland's world all the way up to like any previous past levels from before beyond that. Most of the levels, even especially noticeable with Tempest Towers, is very hard. By what I mean by that is the fact that this mission did took me 2 attempts. Because of that, the first attempt I seem to get a lot of failure for that part, because I think the reason being for that is because, well, I seem to only miss out only one last Zeke, which is actually very well hidden, by the way. And yeah, for the most part though, I've only done like you know, for a second attempt. But either way, but even then, one thing I need to point things out right away, I'm probably not going to post in the failure compilations because it might be a little bit of a chore to go through, even for the forms of the editing software is concerned, because every time whenever I was trying to able to put in a successful attempt, even the forms of the failure attempts as well beyond that, basically sometimes my video editing software, especially with the you know, the Roxo Video Wave program seem to attempt to able to crash every now and then, which even then, that's the only thing I'm not too thrilled about. But even then though, let's just move on to the next level, which appears to be Mole Hole. Which, yes, this level, surprisingly enough, it did took me just about one attempt. Because of that though, this is the only level to actually feature like a shorter time length. So even then though, we've only got 15 seconds to spare, and it only takes place in one small arena. So even then though, because of that, this level, or in this case, this segment does not require any transformation sequences. So as a result, it just makes this section a whole lot easier as far as that's been concerned. So even then though, yeah, that was about it, obviously. So, yeah, there's not much else to really think about that, but even then though, it's when we get to future challenges, especially noticeable by the forms of towards the very end of the forms of Kirby's Epic Yarn as a result. This might actually be summarized as the forms of like, sometimes successful attempts, even for my better attempts on most of the actual challenges, and yeah, there's not much else to really tell. So the final level in the forms of Zeke's hide and seek challenges, by the way, and that is the forms of Dark Manor, because we've now reached to the 5-star difficulty level. So, what makes this level kind of tricky when it comes to like finding all 5 of them, is the fact that obviously we do need to utilize the darkness elements. So because of that, if you want to able to find them, then you need to able to be paying attention to that whatsoever, in case if you are about to be able to missing on something. But either way, it's surprising enough though, actually, is the fact that with this particular attempt, or in this case, attempt, by the forms of this particular mission is concerned, it did surprisingly took me about one attempt, which I'm quite surprised, because even then, unlike in the majority of the later challenges where we're about to be getting to later on, mainly by the forms of Buster's training and stuff like that, and even Beadrix's, run challenges, it might actually take me several attempts to able to actually do this successfully. But if not, sometimes I have to able to cut the footage off in case if I don't make the video a little bit more tacked on, or in this case just a long and drag out a little bit. I will admit that right away. Yeah, I really do apologize about how the fact that my voice has gone a little bit toned down a little bit. It's most likely because there's not much else I can really talk about for this point in time for this point. Other than today was actually forms of the 2nd of October in 2018. So today, that, Mega Man 11 has been just recently released today on the forms of the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. I'm not sure about the PC Steam version though, but it's just that I'm not a pure expert when it comes to like PC gaming and everything. But other than that though, I'm sure enough I can able to actually just to be guaranteed if I'm guessing this correctly. So, anyways though, so I think I'm missing out one last Zeke. In fact, I believe the last Zeke, it was actually somewhere from... There we go. So that concludes pretty much every single challenges in the forms of Zeke's hide and seek challenges. So now, after when you're able to actually just manage to able to completely done with every single challenges, as far as depends on what activities you'll be going through, all you have to do is basically that after when you have a chat with him, after that little patch obtaining system, which in fact we've got the floaty ghost patch, and what we need to do is the fact that if you really want to get 100% everything of this game, there is actually an addition to the forms of the other extra Beadrix that you can only obtain once you finish up the main level, and then able to actually just finish off the main level, and then when the actual text message has been pop up, this means you can able to actually activate something from the Kirby's flat, because as you can tell, I didn't do that, because even then I need to figure this out, because I know it's a little bit of a longer process to deal with this for this point in time, but I'm sure enough I can able to actually just to go ahead and just classify for you guys of how you can able to actually get the rest of the remainings of the forms of the patches themselves. So yeah, that goes that. So now we move on to the forms of the final set of amount of stages with the forms of Beadrix Run. Now, this is going to be the most majority of the forms of that specific amount of levels, unlike any forms of how it does it in Zeke's hide and seek challenges, which we've already done about only, let's just say only 3 of those levels. And I'm sure enough we can able to actually encounter even more levels by the forms of Beadrix Run, in case if we're about to be able to actually just go ahead and just do the rest. So, and I think that could be the same applies for how it does it from one of those challenges as well, is the fact that every time you finish one of those challenges, you have to replay one of the main levels, and then once you finish up the main level, and then after able to actually speaking with the forms of one of those friends, as you can see right there, basically every time when a text message pops up, you have to able to actually enter back in the forms of your flat, and that way you would able to actually guarantee that you would able to get yourselves the additional Beadrix as a result. So that's the whole entire purposes throughout. So let's move on to Cozy Cabin. Now, what makes Cozy Cabin is so drastically difficult in comparison to the likes of any other beads collecting missions is the fact that, if you probably did not know already, this is actually this particular mission can only take me about 10 attempts. Because the reason being for that is because sometimes my skills when it comes to like using Kirby's parachuting mechanic, sometimes I found it to be quite of a struggle sometimes, because even then though, I swear I managed to able to actually just trying to get my momentum going, but sometimes it just doesn't take me anywhere sometimes. And sometimes my game would tend to lag a little bit, most notably because there's too much beats on screen, or maybe just, I think it's probably because of the actual beat system is concerned. But apart from that though, and because of that, you have to utilize the wind mechanics of the forms at this level in particular. And once you're able to get used to with this wind mechanic, then you would be fine as long as you're able to actually don't miss by about, like, let's just say in the previous attempts I've actually did done off screen. Holy cow, I swear I was off by 6 beats left from that specific amount. Which, even then though, I kinda wish if the timer goes a little bit too higher up, but I guess not, so, oh well. So there we go, that's the hot dog fabric, which appears to be Sonic's favorite type of food. It appears to be more accurately like chili dogs. So, yeah, other than that though, yeah, we've got the future city up next. Now, for this level, it only took me about 2 attempts on this particular challenges because, well, at least to be more specifically for this stage, what makes this a little bit trickier is the fact that you need to be right on with your jumps. And especially noticeable how the fact that, it's a bit like how it does it in, the coin battle mode in the forms of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and especially noticeable for New Super Mario Bros. U as well. Basically, you have to be exactly right on with your specific jumps and whatnot, but if you time your jumps incorrectly, then you're probably missing out on a lot of beats, and especially noticeable, you can't afford to able to fall down to the pit, because if you do fall off to the pit below, you're gonna lose a lot of those beats, especially noticeable if you're able to actually decide to go ahead and, just hopefully, God forbid, try to able to actually just make it biggest leaps of faith as possible. But as far as the second attempt goes, it did that pretty well. Better than the forms of the first attempt though, I will say this much. So, but it might take you a lot of practice to able to actually just go ahead and, you know, just get the rest of the beats as far as I'm concerned about this. So another thing I want to talk about for this point, folks, is the fact that, well, we've only got 3 more days to go until Super Mario Party is about to be releasing and during the rest of the world, in the forms of every single region, so it's more pointing things out right away. So now let's move on to stage number 16, we're going back into Mulhall, and for some reason it decreases the difficulty of the stars, means it's now 4 stars instead of 5. But, however though, I will admit though right away, is the fact that this level actually took me about, let's just say 2 attempts. The first attempt, I did accidentally failed on that miserably, probably because of how the fact that, well, it might be something to do with this stingy time limit. I will admit though right away, because I don't really think you can able to actually just increase that at any sort of methods. But it's always this one of those things how the fact that if you want to able to get the rest of the remaining beats, sometimes you're off by a few seconds off from it, which even then though that, as you can tell, I'm almost low on time. So even then though that could be something for this matter, so yeah, but other than that though, wow, I did manage to beat this for 20 milliseconds as you can see on screen. But even then though, for a second attempt, did that successfully, better than the first attempt, but you know. But it can be very tricky sometimes because usually in this particular level, the transformation variety is always the main factor with that specific mission objective. But other than that though, it might be not so much of an issue, I don't think. But sometimes you're gonna have to be so fast and quick, probably due to the fact that you only have like 40-second limit, which even then though, that really trying to able throws me off a bit. And now we're moving on to Evergreen Lift. Now, this one might actually also took me 2 attempts, because the thing is about this particular mission though, is the fact that most of these enemies, especially noticeable if you accidentally temporarily get frozen by, like, somewhat of a cold enemies and stuff like that, even especially just manage to get hit by enemies in general, you're sometimes able to actually just waste a lot of beats on you, and especially noticeable how the fact that you're potentially trying to able to waste your time as well. So even then though, that's the thing indeed you do need to worry about this sometimes, is the fact that you need to be right on with that specific time limit as far as that's been concerned with. And also, not to mention that you always have to need to able to actually go ahead and defeat that little bead bag right there, or the bead bag enemy, in case if you're about to be getting even more of those beads. And I was actually really close there, because I almost gonna get screwed over by the forms of those, you know, one of those dangerous projectile enemies, which I'm sure enough they can be kind of annoying to deal with, especially noticeable I was almost nearly towards the end of that specific amount. And just like before, I seem to almost got get my victorious victory after about a few seconds left, but even then no. And also you're gonna have to work on by the forms of that little unravel obstacle right there, in case if you want to able to continuously going back up. Because if it stops completely, then you're gonna have to keep on doing this process over and over and over again if you want to keep on going up. So that's that, and we've got ourselves the evergreen forest patch, or no, not so much patch. Because we've already done patches, it's just fabrics we have to able to concentrate on now. So anyways, now we move on to Moonbase, and the stars rating system is actually going back up into forms of 5 stars. So, and this one we have to collect about 350 beads within 50 seconds. Now this one did surprise me, because even then, it actually took me about 1 attempt to do this. I don't know what it is though, because of the space gravity segments here, because we're usually walking on space or even on the moon, and as a result of that addition, there is no tank form here. So even then, all we have to do is basically we need to collect the most of those beads on foot, and as a result, you do need to able to actually be very careful for the most part though, because yeah, as you can see right there, that sometimes you might as well easily get hit by those meteor showers, which honestly it doesn't bother me that much because they usually split out a bit, and especially noticeable collecting those beads aren't so much of an issue. In fact, you can able to actually get some of it, not all of it mind you, because even then though, that way you could able to get an opportunity to able to actually just go ahead and able to actually complete the mission there. So yeah, apart from that though, we've only got about I would say we've only got 2 more missions left, if I recall correctly, when it comes to Beadrix run, and after Beadrix run, then we can able to move on to the next 3 of one of those remaining challenges, but in forms of, well, pretty much everything. So here we go with Battleship Halberd. Now, what makes this one so tricky is because, you probably do not know this already, is the fact that this might actually took me about 11 attempts to do this. Because the reason being for that is because, well, we'll explain more on that later, as soon as we're able to actually continue exploring for this. But as you can see, unlike the main level of the forms of Battleship Halberd, that normally it just goes really slowly and smoothly, but in this mission this time around though, it's going ridiculously fast. I think the reason why they do this is because you need to be exactly right on when it comes to collecting beads and all that stuff. And yeah, you can't afford to get hit multitude of times either, because if you accidentally missed out on the forms of if you get hit several times, your star beads will able to get split out, and if you didn't get the if you don't recollect the star bead during time, you're probably not going to backtrack for a moment because it's completely autopilot. So even then though, because as a result, you do need to able to actually do this level with at least a no damage run, because if you get too many hits onto the forms of specific cannon shots, and even especially noticeable with pretty much everything else, it's way too difficult sometimes. Even don't get me started on the forms of those stupid UFOs, because these UFOs really trying to screw things over and over again for me. And also, you're gonna have to keep on destroying those cannons, because again, much like in the forms of the regular level, you do need to destroy them unless if there are some remaining beasts to be intact within. So, and as you can tell, just like in the forms of Mole Hall, I've managed to able to get myself my close victory by the forms of 50 milliseconds left. So, yeah, that's that. Alright, so I believe we've only got about 1 more level left when it comes to collecting beads marathon, and that will have to be, assuming if we're able to actually just get this fabric first. In fact, we've got the Halberd fabric. So yeah, the last mission is going to be the forms of outer rings, and it's once again 5 stars, and this time around though we're going to be collecting 1,000 beads. Now this one does take me about 2 attempts on this mission this time around though, because well, it's pretty much the exact same deal as far as how it does it back in the forms of Battleship Halberd, but except the fact that I found this one to be quite tolerable compared to the ones in the forms of you know, in Battleship Halberd, because even then, the actual hit detection when it comes to trying to able to obtain those beads is actually very strong when it comes to rocket transformation, and second of all is the fact that it's all in a vertical position, so even then though we don't have to worry about losing too many beads, assuming if you're able to get further up on the actual screen. And thirdly is the fact that the actual auto-scoring section doesn't go too fast. See, for now, at least I'm expecting this might be very tolerable. Although, except those UFOs, which I still find that to be very annoying, especially with those enemies always trying to able to throw you off a bit. And what makes this challenge can get tricky sometimes is the fact that these projectiles are very difficult to avoid sometimes, mainly by the forms of those stupid UFO lasers, which I will admit though right away, that is very unpredictable to do sometimes. And second of all is the fact that what makes this a tad bit more trickier is the fact that you can't afford to able to actually end the level off from there, because if you finish off the main level as such, then there's no way you can able to backtrack, because, you know, it's just basically just an autopilot segment right there. So, there we go, that's pretty much it, but in forms of, well, pretty much every single stages in the forms of Beadrix's run. So, but here's what I'm going to do right there. In fact, let me just see what this fabric is. It's the Ringed Planet fabric. And what I'm going to do for this point and onwards, especially noticeable when I was going to be doing some of these jump cuts, I'm going to be able to actually hit off and able to actually replay the level called Patch Castle, because that is by far the shortest level in the whole entire game. And I'll meet you guys and see how this will actually happen. So I'll meet you guys back. Okay, it does work. So yeah, basically in order to actually get the additional more of those fabrics is the fact that we need to able to replay any kind of level you want, and basically the best recommendation is the forms of Patch Castle, because it's easily one of the easiest and the shortest level in the entire game. And as a result, if you manage to beat that level in a certain quicker amount of time, then you would able to actually get one of those additional more fabrics. So even then though, like Beadrix for example, that way we can able to actually unlock the Beadrix fabric. So that could be same applies for Zeke and Buster and Carrie and of course Maria. So, and I'll meet you guys back again, because I'm assuming that first of all I need to able to actually just double check to see how Zeke is getting on, and since I speak to him from there, I need to do another jump cut to able to actually finish off with Patch Castle yet again. But this time around though, we'll get Zeke's patch for sure. So I'll meet you guys back for just a moment. Alright, so now it works. So now we need to head back over to Kirby's flat. And just in case if we can able to actually unlock, Zeke's patch. See, Fernando, oh no, Zeke's fabric. I keep saying patch for some reason because, you know, we are practically done with patches for now. Anyway, though. So, but I can't really afford to able to show you guys Patch Castle again, because we've already seen that level before, like, several times, including the likes of some of these missions all by itself as well. But apart from that, though, because you already know how these collectibles are located, and especially noticeable of getting the gold medal requirements as far as you're already aware. But either way, so let's go ahead and just, I'm gonna have to readjust my room a little bit, in case if there's any things I probably should able to put away from. I think I should probably place the space items, well, except the space monitor, to be placed as it is. Even though it might be a little bit of a waste of time, but I'm also able to do such as so. But don't worry, until when we get to the latest portion of these episodes, even by the forms of the last few videos of this Let's Play, I would able to actually just go ahead and do this off screen or off capturing. So, but anyways though, we got the endings off for this point right there, so join me next time on Let's Play Kirby's Epic Yarn / Kirby's Extra Epic Yarn for the Nintendo Wii / Nintendo 3DS, is that we're going to be moving on to the forms of Carrie's transport, and especially noticeable for Buster's training to do the final mission. So see you guys next time. Later, fellas.